Okay, so picture this. You're in New York City. It's the mid-20th century. The air is thick with that specific Manhattan energy.
That frantic hum.
Exactly. Cabs, honking, people rushing everywhere. And you step out of that chaos into a deli, a place called Lindy's,
The famous Lindy's,
the
yes.
legendary Lindy's. And the smell just hits you. It's brine and cured meats and a little bit of cigarette smoke and coffee. It's just packed.
It's an institution.
It is, or it was. And this place has a reputation, right? It's famous for its cheesecake.
Mm.
Tourists are literally lining up around the block because they've all read the same guidebook that says this is the cheesecake to end all cheesecake.
The holy grail of desserts.
But here's the thing, and this is really the hook for everything we're going to talk about today, the cheesecake.
That's fine.
It's okay. It's perfectly serviceable, but it is definitely not the nectar of the gods that the guidebooks claim.
The reputation has completely outrun the reality.
It's a classic tourist trap. But while all the tourists are up front, paying way too much for this perfectly mediocre dessert, something else is happening. Over in the corner, maybe at a back table, you've got this completely different tribe of people.
You have the heavy hitters.
We're talking physicists, mathematicians, and this is the key part, actors from Broadway who are on their break.
And they are not there for the food.
Not at all. They're there because they're obsessives. And while the actors are just, gossiping about their shows, the physicists are listening. And they start to notice a pattern.
And this is one of those incredible moments, right, where just a casual observation in a deli, it completely changes how we understand the universe.
It really is. They're not looking at the menu. They're looking at the lifespan of Broadway shows. The actors are talking about what's closing, what's the surprise hit. And the physicists realize something really strange.
A heuristic.
A heuristic, yeah. They figure out that if a show has managed to survive for 100 days, just by the very fact of having stuck around that long, it has a future life expectancy of roughly another 100 days.
And that math just keeps scaling. If it claws its way to the 200-day mark, you can, with pretty good confidence, expect it to last another 200.
Right. And I want to pause here because this just broke my brain a little bit when I first read our notes. Because normally we think about time like a ticking clock.
And of course.
I mean, I'm a human being. If I live to be 80, I don't suddenly expect to live another 80 years.
No, absolutely not. You expect the clock to be running out.
I expect to die.
Yeah.
That's just how biology works. But what they figured out at Lindy's is that for certain things, for ideas, for technologies, for art, these non-living entities, time works differently.
Or maybe not time itself, but aging. Aging works in reverse for these things.
Aging works in reverse. That's a great way to put it. Every single day that passes doesn't bring it closer to its death. It actually adds to its life expectancy.
Precisely. And that observation, that simple idea, born over plates of pretty average cheesecake in a loud New York deli, that became known as the Lindy effect.
And here's the beautiful irony. The deli itself.
It didn't make it.
It's gone. It eventually closed because, well, you can't fake quality forever. But the idea that was born there, that is robust. That idea survived.
The idea is Lindy.
So that is our mission for this deep dive. We have a massive stack of notes here, all based on the work of Nassim Nicholas Taleb and his incredible analysis of this Lindy effect. We're going to unpack why time isn't just a measurement on your wall clock. It's a judge, the ultimate judge.
And we're going to explore some really, let's say, provocative ideas, like why your grandmother is probably, statistically speaking, smarter than a PhD in psychology.
Well, I'm already on board with that one.
We're going to look at why the whole concept of peer review in modern academia might actually be a dangerous echo chamber that creates fragile, useless knowledge.
And ultimately, why the only thing you should ever truly trust is something that has survived.
The only real expert is survival.
It's a total worldview shift. Seriously. We're going to talk about porcelain owls, ancient Romans, and why you should burn old logs but absolutely read old books. So let's get into the physics of it. Because when you first say Lindy effect, it sounds like a superstition.
Yeah, it sounds like folk wisdom.
Right, like, oh, if I wear my lucky socks, the show will go on. But our source material claims this is actually about the physics of fragility.
It is. This isn't magic at all. It's probability. To really get Lindy, you have to first understand disorder. And to understand disorder, well, we have to talk about the porcelain owl.
I love this image from the source. It's so vivid. Describe the owl for us.
Okay, so imagine a beautiful, very intricate porcelain owl. It's sitting on a writing desk. It's delicate. It's expensive. Maybe it's an heirloom that's been in your family for generations.
Okay, I have it in my mind.
Now think about what that owl wants from life. What is its ideal environment? What's its happy place?
It wants me to not bump the table. It wants silence. It wants, stillness.
Exactly. It wants tranquility. It wants the room to stay at a perfectly constant temperature so it doesn't crack from the stress. It wants absolutely no vibrations.
And it definitely does not want to be packed into my suitcase and dragged through Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport.
Oh God, no. The source specifically calls out Terminal 5. It is the ultimate stress test. It's the chaotic maw of destruction for anything fragile.
So why doesn't the owl want that? It seems obvious, but what's the formal definition here?
Because the owl is fragile. And we need to define fragility very, very carefully here. It's not just easy to break. In this context, fragility is defined as sensitivity to disorder.
Sensitivity to disorder.
Okay. It has no upside from random events. Think about it. If you shake that owl, does it get better? Does it somehow improve or get stronger?
No, it turns into a pile of dust. It shatters into a million pieces.
Right. Random events can only hurt it. That is the very definition of fragility. It has a nonlinear negative reaction to stressors. A tiny little tap might be okay, but a slightly harder tap doesn't just do slightly more damage, it destroys it completely.
Okay, I get the owl. It hates chaos. It hates Heathrow. But how does that connect back to time? Because the Lindy effect is all about time.
This is the crucial link. This is the aha moment, and it's where people often get stuck. In probability theory, and really in the real world, time is effectively the same thing as volatility.
Whoa, hang on. Slow down there.
Yeah.
Time is volatility. To me, time is just, seconds ticking by on a clock. How is that the same thing as chaos?
Think about it from a risk perspective. If I leave that porcelain owl on the desk for 5 minutes, what are the odds of a major earthquake happening in those specific 5 minutes?
Pretty low. Close to zero, I'd imagine.
Right. What are the odds of a clumsy cleaner coming in and knocking it over in those 5 minutes? Also very low. But what if I leave it on that same desk for 500 years?
Well, eventually something is going to happen. An earthquake, a fire, a war, a curious toddler with a hammer, something.
Exactly. Time is just a container for random events. Time is the medium in which disorder happens. The longer you exist, the more lottery tickets you buy for a catastrophic event to occur.
So, to say something has survived time.
It's really just another way of saying it has survived disorder.
It's passed the stress test. It's been shaken, and it haven't broken.
Precisely. If something is fragile, like our poor owl, time will eventually find that one specific event that breaks it. It's effectively a long game of Russian roulette. Keep pulling the trigger, that's time passing, and eventually if you're fragile, you're going to find the bullet.
That makes so much sense now. So time is basically a giant filter. It's just constantly shaking the box, and all the fragile stuff breaks and falls through the cracks.
And the stuff that remains, the stuff that's still in the box after all that shaking.
That's the Lindy stuff.
That is the Lindy stuff, which leads us to this concept of being Lindy-proof.
Right.
Things that are Lindy are things that, as we said, age in reverse. Their life expectancy actually lengthens with time, conditional on them having survived this far. But, and this is a huge but, we have to be very careful to distinguish between two completely different modes of aging.
Because you, my friend, are not Lindy.
Laughs. I am definitely not aging in reverse. My knees are very quick to remind me of that every single morning when I get out of bed.
You and me both.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, we are stuck in mode 1, biological aging.
Yes. Humans, dogs, fruit, cheese, you name it. We have a biological clock, a built-in obsolescence called senescence. We get more fragile as we age.
It's the opposite of Lindy.
The exact opposite. If I drop you off a ladder when you're 10 years old, you probably just bounce back. You're made of rubber.
If you drop me off a ladder now,
we are taking a trip to the hospital. And if I drop you off a ladder when you're 90...
I shatter like the porcelain owl.
Exactly. Accidents hurt us more the older we get. That is the definition of perishability. But then there's mode 2, nonperishability.
And this applies to informational or conceptual things, ideas, books, technologies.
And interestingly, the source material points out that it also applies to certain animals, like crocodiles and some turtles.
Right, that was a wild detail.
It's a fascinating biological anomaly. Crocodiles don't really have senescence in the same way we do. A 20-year-old crocodile has a life expectancy of, say, about 40 more years. But a 40-year-old crocodile...
Don't tell me.
It also has roughly 40 years left.
No way.
It doesn't age in our traditional sense of becoming more frail or decrepit. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger until a bigger predator eats it, or it starves, or gets a disease. It functions almost like a non-perishable concept.
That's incredible. But let's apply this to books, because that's where it really clicks into place for me. The source uses War and Peace as a great example.
Right. And this distinction is critical. If you have a physical copy of War and Peace sitting on your shelf, the actual paper, the glue, the ink, that physical object is perishable.
It's biological, essentially.
Exactly. The paper will yellow, the binding will crack, the pages will get brittle. It will eventually rot and turn to dust.
But the story.
Now War and Peace, the novel itself, the idea, the content, that is non-perishable. It does not have a biological clock. It lives in mode 2.
So because it has survived this long, since the 1860s, the Lindy effect tells us it's likely to survive a lot longer.
Much, much longer than a book that was just published today. Think about it this way. If a book has been continuously in print for 50 years, it suggests there's something in it that resonates across generations.
It's already survived massive cultural shifts, wars, technological changes.
So you can reasonably expect it to be in print for at least another 50. But if it's been around for 2,000 years, like, say, the Odyssey...
Expect another 2,000.
Exactly. It has proven through sheer survival that it can withstand the disorder of time. It is robust.
This brings up a huge, huge question then. If time is this filter that weeds out the fragile stuff, the stuff that breaks under pressure, then who are the real experts? Who actually knows what they're talking about? Because, let's face it, we live in a world that is drowning in experts.
This is what the source calls the meta-expert problem, or my favorite name for it, the issue of turtles all the way down.
Explain that. What on earth do turtles have to do with expertise?
Oh, well, it's a famous old story. But imagine you want to know if an expert is actually good. Let's say you're hiring an economist to manage your country's finances. How do you know he's any good?
I guess I'd ask another economist, a more senior one.
Okay, so you get a judge, a meta-expert. But how do you know the judge is any good?
I get a better, more famous economist to judge him.
And who judges that expert?
A super-duper expert,
Yeah.
a Nobel Prize winner.
Exactly. You see the problem. It's an infinite regress. You eventually run out of people to judge the judges. It's a classic philosophical problem. Quis custodiet ipsos custodes. Who watches the watchman?
If the experts are just judging each other, you can end up with a closed loop of complete nonsense.
A self-congratulatory circle. So how do we solve it? How do we break out of that loop and know what's real?
There has to be an objective standard.
The source says there is only one objective judge. The only judge that doesn't need a judge itself. Survival. Time. Time is the only expert that ultimately matters. If something has survived for a long time, it has value, even if we can't articulate exactly why.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. It can't just be about surviving by hiding in a hole, right?
No, of course not.
I can survive by locking myself in a basement and never taking a single risk. That doesn't make me robust. It just makes me a coward who's good at hiding.
Correct. And the source material is very clear about this. Survival only proves robustness if you have skin in the game.
Skin in the game. This is a massive concept for Taleb.
It is arguably the core concept of his entire philosophy. Skin in the game means you are exposed to harm. You are exposed to the consequences of reality.
If you make a mistake, you pay the price for it, personally.
Yes. If you're protected from all risk, you might survive for a while, but it's a fake, fragile survival. It's artificial.
It's like a trust fund kid who thinks they're a brilliant investor because they haven't gone broke yet. But they've never actually risked their own grocery money. They're playing with a safety net the size of a continent.
That's a perfect analogy. Without direct exposure to reality, fragile things can survive temporarily for no good reason. But eventually, the shield drops. The trust fund runs out. The government bailout doesn't come. And when that shield drops, they don't just bend, they shatter.
And they usually cause a lot of collateral damage on the way down.
A huge amount. This really changes how you should look at the information you consume. Think about the constant advice we get. Read the latest book. Watch the latest news. Follow the trends.
The Lindy effect says do the exact opposite.
It does, and the source brings up this beautiful quote from Alfonso X, the King of Spain. He was known as El Sabio the Wise.
What did he say?
Burn old logs, drink old wine, read old books, keep old friends.
Read old books. That's the Lindy advice right there.
It is, and it aligns perfectly with how the ancient Romans viewed the world. The source mentions that the Romans had utter contempt for what they called the cult of youth.
They weren't impressed by the next big thing, by the hot new idea.
Not in the slightest. They didn't care if a political system made sense on paper. They didn't care about the elegance of the theory or the logical purity of the argument. They asked one and only one question.
Does it work?
Does it work? That's it. Radical functional pragmatism.
If it's been working for 300 years, it's good. We
Yeah.
keep it.
Exactly. And if it's a brand new, shiny idea that logically should work but has never been tested in the real world, they weren't interested. They viewed it as inherently fragile, dangerous even.
You compare that to today. We are obsessed with the New York Times bestseller list is practically a holy text for some people. But the source is pretty savage about this.
It's a brutal, brutal comparison. The source notes that a book written by a current hotshot op-ed writer, you know the type, someone with all the buzz, all the marketing, getting interviewed on all the morning shows, that book has a lower 5-year survival rate than a patient with pancreatic cancer.
Wow. Just put that in perspective for a second. Pancreatic cancer is incredibly grim.
It's very grim, and the survival rate of a hot new business book is even worse. Most of those books are just landfill within 5 years. You see them piled up in the bargain bin for 50 cents.
Or they get pulped, turned back into nothing.
Exactly. You cannot fool Lindy. Hype is not survival. Marketing is not robustness. No amount of Facebook ads or TV appearances can make a fragile idea robust.
So if we can't trust the hype and we can't trust the new, we have to look at the systems that are producing all this information. And this linked us to a really, really spicy part of the source material.
Oh, yes.
The crisis of peer review and academic.
This is where we might lose a few listeners who work in universities, but I'm asking you to stick with us because the definition of freedom here is absolutely fascinating.
I love this definition. It's got nothing to do with how much money you have or what country you live in.
No. The source defines a free person as someone whose fate is not centrally or directly dependent on peer assessment.
That is a very specific definition. Let's unpack that. Who is free and who isn't, according to the...
Okay, let's compare two people. A businessman, specifically a risk taker, like a trader or an entrepreneur and an academic. The businessman is judged by one thing.
The bottom line.
The ledger. His accountant. Did you make money or did you lose money? The results are objective and unforgiving. You can't argue with your bank account balance.
And he doesn't need his peers to like him.
Not at all. In fact, the source quotes an old pit trader who had this great line. He said, "If people over here like you, you are doing something wrong."
Laughs. That's the ultimate contrarian mindset. If everyone agrees with you in the market, it means there's no profit left. You're just part of the herd.
Exactly. His survival depends on being right against the market. But now let's look at the academic, or really any non-risk taker in a large organization. They are judged entirely by other academics.
Your whole career depends on it. Citations, getting published in the right journals, getting tenure.
It's a popularity contest, a very smart, very wordy, very high-stakes popularity contest.
It's pure socialization. You have to lose your intellectual independence because if you say something that truly upsets the tribe, you don't get published. You don't get the grant. You don't get the job.
So you start writing to please the judges, not necessarily to find the truth.
You're trying to impress other people, not reality.
Precisely. And it gets even worse. It's not just your direct peers, it's the bureaucrats. The source talks about the total corruption of assessment in these systems. University administrators, who often have absolutely no clue about the subject matter, become the ultimate judges.
And they can't judge the work itself, so they look at signals.
Right. They look at proxies for quality, prestige of the journal, impact factors, things like that, which just creates this toxic circular loop. Prestigious just ends up meaning a specific circle of powerful people like your work.
And the source's argument is that this is not Lindy compatible.
It's a fragility machine, because if everyone is just agreeing with each other to keep their jobs and get funding, nobody is actually checking if these ideas work in reality. There's no skin in the game.
The source uses a phrase I just have to use. He calls it the problem of macro bullshit.
Yes. He makes a very important distinction between the hard sciences and the social sciences.
Okay.
In a hard science, physics, chemistry, engineering, it's much harder to fake it for long. If your bridge collapses, your theory was wrong, the bridge is the judge.
Gravity is the judge. Reality has the final say.
Exactly. But in macroeconomics, in political theory, in sociology,
You can produce total nonsense for decades and still be considered a genius.
you can. Because the feedback loops are so messy and so long, if you say, my brilliant economic policy will lead to prosperity in 20 years, and then it doesn't, you can just say, well, a bunch of unexpected events happened that I couldn't have foreseen. You never have to pay the price for being wrong.
So this is where the academy trick comes into play.
Right. This is the mechanism that generates and protects the fragility. If you, as one person, say something demonstrably crazy, people will just say you're a crazy person. But if you get 20 people together, form an academy, and you all say the same crazy thing,
Suddenly it's not crazy. It's peer-reviewed.
you get a department, you get a conference, you get government funding.
Yeah.
It becomes a ritual, and the source compares it to an athletic contest. It stops being about the pursuit of knowledge and becomes about winning the game of publishing. It's totally self-referential.
And there's that great Wittgenstein quote in the notes that just sums it all up. In philosophy, the winner is the one who finishes last.
I love that quote. It's so profound. In a race, you want to be first. But in the pursuit of wisdom, the one who finishes last is the one who took the time to get it right. The one who wasn't rushing to pull a half-baked idea just to get another line on their CV.
The competition, in that sense, destroys knowledge because it encourages speed over depth.
Exactly. And the source is predicting a bit of a collapse here, isn't he? This bubble of peer-reviewed validation can't last forever.
Reality has to bite back eventually.
The prediction is that the real world will eventually intervene. It always does. The source suggests that alumni people who have left the university and actually have to work in reality will start cutting off the funding to what the source calls spurious disciplines.
He gets very specific, mentioning things like post-colonial gender experts and other fields where the connection to practical, real-world outcomes is, let's say, tenuous.
He does. The argument is that eventually the money runs out. Universities will have to compete with professional training workshops and other forms of education that are actually tethered to reality. If a 4-year degree doesn't help you get a job, or worse, if it trains you in theories that are actively useless or harmful in the real world, it will lose its value.
It's the Lindy effect coming for the university system itself. If the education being provided isn't robust, if it doesn't have skin in the game, it won't survive.
Precisely. Reality always wins in the end. It's just a matter of when.
Okay, so we've torched the cheesecake, we've smashed the porcelain owl, and we've basically dismantled the modern university system.
We're on a roll today.
We really are. But if the academic system is so flawed, how do we know it's true? We have to talk about science. But not science as a kind of religion with a capital S. We're talking about Karl Popper and grandmothers.
A very unlikely duo. But they are the twin heroes of this part of the story.
Let's start with Popper. He's the guy who's famous for the idea of falsification, right?
Yes. Karl Popper is an absolute titan in the philosophy of science. His core insight was that you can never definitively prove a theory is true. You can only ever prove that it is false.
Can you give me a simple example?
The classic example is swans. If my theory is all swans are white, and I go out and I see 1,000 white swans, have I proven my theory?
No. Because there might be a black one hiding somewhere in Australia that you haven't seen yet.
Exactly. But if I go out and I see one single black swan,
Then you have just proven, with 100% certainty, that your theory, all swans are white, is false.
boom, that's falsification. Real science isn't about collecting evidence to prove you're right. It's about actively trying to prove you're wrong. You look for the black swan. And the source argues this is a very, very Lindy concept.
But the source adds a twist to it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about cold, hard logic.
Correct. The source argues that Popper's method works not because a bunch of nerds in lab coats sat down and invented a scientific method, but because ideas themselves need to have skin in the game.
Explain that. How does an idea have skin in the game?
An idea has skin in the game if it's vulnerable, if it can be killed. If an idea is stated in such a way that it can never be proven wrong, like say, everything happens for a reason, that's not science.
That's faith. Or just nonsense.
Right. It's not falsifiable. Science works because scientific ideas are Lindy-prone. They are deliberately subjected to their own natural fragility. They are constantly being attacked, tested, and stressed. Only the robust ones survive.
So we shouldn't really be looking for truth with a capital T. That feels a little destabilizing.
The source suggests a very pragmatic shift in our thinking. We should replace the word true with useful, or even better, not harmful.
That's a huge shift, not harmful.
It is. An idea survives over the long run if it acts as a good risk manager. Does holding this belief favor the survival of the person holding it? This is where it gets really fascinating because it even applies to superstitions.
How so?
Well, if a superstition prevented your tribe from eating poisonous blueberries for 1,000 years.
Like the forest spirits will curse you if you eat the blueberries.
Exactly. Now, is it true that spirits live in the forest? Probably not. But is it true that following that rule saves your life? Yes, absolutely. The idea is useful. It promotes survival. It's Lindy, even if the explanation is wrong.
Which brings us finally to the grandmother. This is my absolute favorite statistic in this entire deep dive. The grandmother versus the psychologist.
It is the ultimate showdown, isn't it?
Okay, so the source says, if you hear a piece of advice from your grandmother, the odds are that it works about 90% of the time. But if you read a piece of advice from a psychologist or a behavioral scientist in a new study,
It works less than 10% of the time.
ouch, that is a stinging indictment of an entire field. Why is there such a massive, massive gap?
Well, with one important caveat. Unless, of course, the psychologist is just repeating what the grandmother already said, which happens
Yeah.
surprisingly often.
Right. A groundbreaking new study shows that vegetables are, in fact, good for you. Thanks, Grandma. But seriously, why is the grandmother so much more accurate?
Because the grandmother is a filter. She isn't just inventing advice on the spot. She isn't sitting in a lab running experiments. She is passing down heuristics, simple rules of thumb that have survived for generations.
She's a messenger from the past.
She is an archivist of survival strategies. The advice like, don't swim right after you eat, or make sure you bundle up or you'll catch a cold. Even if the specific biological explanation is a bit fuzzy, the behavioral outcome usually has some kind of hidden protective value.
Okay.
Maybe bundling up doesn't magically stop a virus, but it does prevent you from going outside when it's freezing, which lowers your overall risk of hypothermia or other complications. The explanation might be wrong. The cold air is filled with demons, but the action is right. Stay warm. It works.
Where's the psychologist?
The psychologist is often relying on a single study, a study that was probably done on 20 American college students in a lab under artificial lighting, and usually with absolutely no skin in the game for the researcher.
And we know this is a massive problem. The replication crisis is real.
It's a full-blown crisis in the social sciences. The source cites a major study that tried to replicate 100 prestigious psychology papers.
And these weren't obscure papers. These are the big ones. The ones that made headlines and spawned TED Talks.
The superstars. And they found that only 39 of them replicated. Meaning, when other scientists tried to do the exact same experiment, they couldn't get the same results more than 60% of the time. And the source suspects that even among those 39, fewer than 10 are actually robust enough to work in the real world outside the lab.
So we are building our entire modern understanding of human behavior on a foundation of sand.
On wet sand, we're pathologizing normal human behaviors based on data that might not even be real.
This is genuinely terrifying. So how do we filter this? How do I know if the news article I'm reading about the latest scientific discovery is total garbage?
The source gives us a wonderful litmus test. This is a practical tool you can use today. If you read a finding in social science, something like willpower is a limited resource that gets depleted, or power posing boosts your confidence, ask yourself one simple question.
What is it?
Does this have an antecedent in the classics?
Did the Romans already know this? Did the Greeks write about it?
Exactly. Is it in the Latin or Hellenistic moral literature? Is it in the Bible or the Quran? Is it in a collection of ancient proverbs? If it's not, it probably won't replicate.
Because human nature hasn't fundamentally changed in a few thousand years.
We are running the same hardware we were 2,000 years ago. We didn't just discover anxiety or ego or jealousy or overconfidence in a lab in 1995. If the ancients, who are obsessed with human nature, didn't talk about it, there's a good chance it's just a cultural fad or a statistical error.
That is an incredibly powerful filter. Okay, so let's take that to her. Let's prove the concept. We're going to do a rapid fire round here. I'm going to throw a modern discovery at you, something we think we're so smart for figuring out, and you tell me where the ancients beat us to it by a few millennia.
I love this game. Let's do it.
First up, cognitive dissonance. This is a huge one in psychology, Leon Festinger's theory. We have to rationalize our inconsistent beliefs to make ourselves feel better. You know, I didn't get the job I wanted, but the commute would have been awful anyway.
Classic. The ancient version is, of course, Aesop's fables, specifically the story of the fox and the grapes.
Sour grapes.
The fox can't reach the delicious-looking grapes, so he gives up and walks away saying, they were probably sour anyway. That is the original perfect definition of cognitive dissonance, changing your belief to match your reality to avoid the pain of failure. And that story goes back even further to the Assyrian Ahikar of Nineveh. We've known this for 3,000 years.
Amazing. Okay, next one. Loss aversion. The idea that losing $100 hurts more than the pleasure of finding $100 feels good. Behavioral economics won a Nobel Prize for this.
And they should have shared it with Seneca and Livy. The Roman historian Livy wrote in his Annals, "Men feel the good less intensely than the bad." Seneca's letters are just full of this concept. The entire philosophy of Stoicism is basically a system for managing the outsized pain of loss because they knew it outweighed the fleeting joy of gain. They were the original behavioral economists.
Unbelievable. Okay, how about via negativa? The idea that we know what is wrong much better than we know what is right. It's used a lot in design and diet now. The idea that removal is better than addition.
This is the silver rule versus the golden rule.
I know the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right. But the silver rule, which is much older and comes from figures like Ennius and Cicero, says, do not do to others what you would not want done to yourself.
It sounds similar on the surface.
But it's fundamentally different and far more robust. The golden rule requires you to guess what is good for someone else, which can lead to all sorts of arrogant meddling. The silver rule is about avoiding harm. It's much more robust because we all have a pretty universal agreement on what pain is, even if we don't all agree on what happiness is.
That is a crucial distinction. Okay,
Yeah.
Skin in the game, the core concept of the source material.
There's a brilliant Yiddish proverb for that. You can't chew with somebody else's teeth.
I love that. It's so visceral.
Or the Arabic proverb, passed down via the scholar Scaliger, your own fingernail can best scratch your itch. The ancients understood on a gut level that you cannot outsource your vital functions or your risks. If you aren't the one feeling the itch, you can't possibly scratch it properly.
Time discounting. The idea that we prefer a reward now over a bigger reward later, the whole marshmallow test thing.
An ancient Levantine proverb, a bird in the hand is better than 10 on the tree. Simple, elegant. Lindy.
How about the madness of crowds? We tend to think of this as a modern stock market phenomenon. Bubbles, cryptomanias, meme stocks.
Nietzsche, who, remember, was a classicist before he was a philosopher, famously said, "Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule." And he got that directly from Plato. The ancients knew that a mob is a single, stupid organism. They saw it happen in the forums and the colosseums.
Okay, less is more. The minimalist mantra.
Publius Syrus, a Roman writer of mimes. Truth is lost with too much altercation. If you argue too much, if you add too many words, the simple truth disappears into the noise. Brevity is the soul of wit and of truth.
And finally, overconfidence. The modern Dunning-Kruger effect, where incompetent people don't know they're incompetent.
Theognis of Megara, confident I lost everything, defiant I saved everything, or Epicharmus, remain sober and remember to watch out. The ancients were obsessed with the concept of hubris. Greek tragedy is literally just a compilation of stories about overconfident heroes being destroyed by reality.
It's absolutely amazing. We just keep rediscovering these profound truths, so we're already written down on scrolls 2,000 years ago. We just give them fancy new names and put them in PowerPoint decks.
Because those ideas are Lindy. They survived because they accurately mapped the reality of human nature. If they were wrong, the civilizations that followed them would have collapsed long ago.
This brings us to our final section, the outro, if you will. But it's not really an end. It feels more like a warning about our obsession with progress.
The paradox of progress, yes.
And there is this story, this parable, and I absolutely love it. It's usually told about a New York banker and, depending on the version, a Mexican fisherman or a Greek fisherman.
It's a classic. Set the scene for us.
So a rich, type A New York investment banker goes on vacation to a small, sleepy Greek island. He's walking by the dock one afternoon and he sees this fisherman. The fisherman has a small boat, a few really nice-looking fish, and he's packing up for the day. It's maybe noon.
And the banker, with his optimization mindset, is confused.
Totally confused. The banker goes up to him and asks, "Why are you stopping? The day is young. You could catch way more fish if you stayed out." And the fisherman just shrugs and says, "I have enough. I have enough to feed my family."
So what will you do with the rest of your day?
Right. And the fisherman says, "I'm going to go home. I'll play with my children, take a nap with my wife, and then in the evening, I'll walk to the village to drink some wine and play the guitar with my friends."
It sounds like a good life.
A great life. But the banker, being a helpful MBA type, scoffs and says, "No, no, no. You're looking at this all wrong. You have a business opportunity here. If you stayed out longer, you could catch double the fish, then you could sell the extra fish and use the money to buy a bigger boat.
And then with the bigger boat, you catch even more fish. You hire a crew, you buy a whole fleet of boats.
You cut out the middleman, you open your own cannery, you move to the city, then to New York to run your expanding enterprise. You list a company on the New York Stock Exchange, and you'd make millions.
And the fisherman listens patiently to all of this and then asks the ultimate question, okay, and then what?
And the banker says, beaming, totally proud of himself, then comes the best part. When you're rich, you can retire. You can move to a nice little coastal village, sleep late, play with your kids, drink wine with your friends, and play the guitar in the evening.
And the fisherman just looks at him and says,
But isn't that what I am doing right now?
it just hits you right in the gut every time you hear it.
It's such a perfect burn. It just exposes the complete absurdity of the treadmill we put ourselves on.
It really does. But the source points out that this isn't just some modern internet joke or a story you'd find on LinkedIn. It's ancient. The original version of the story goes all the way back to King Pyrrhus in antiquity.
Pyrrhus, the guy who gave us the term Pyrrhic victory, winning the battle but losing so much that you've basically lost the war.
The very same guy. He was a great conqueror, or at least he wanted to be, and he was laying out his plans to conquer Italy. His advisor, a wise man named Cineas, asked him, okay, my king, let's say we conquer Italy. What then?
And what did Pyrrhus say?
Well, Italy is a bridge to Sicily, so then we take Sicily.
And then what?
Then we go to Africa, we take Carthage.
And then what?
Then Spain, then Gaul, we take it all.
He's just painting the whole map red. And finally, Cineas asks the crucial question, when does it end? What do we do when we have conquered the whole world?
And Pyrrhus smiles and says, then, my dear Cineas, we can rest at ease. We can feast and enjoy our days in peace.
And Cineas drops the hammer.
He says, why can't you rest at ease right now? We are already there. You already have the wine. You already have the feast. Why do you need to destroy the world just to get back to where you started?
It's the human condition in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We build these massive, fragile structures of complexity just to try and get back to the simple, robust state we started in.
And that is the ultimate lesson of the Lindy effect. Complexity is often fragile. It requires constant maintenance. It breaks easily. Simplicity, if it has managed to survive, is almost always robust. The fisherman is Lindy. The banker is fragile.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final takeaway? What do we do with all this information? Because let's be honest, we can't all just quit our jobs and become Greek fishermen.
It comes back to this idea of soul in the game. The source argues that real research, real creative work, requires sacrifice. It shouldn't be done by career builders who are just trying to impress a dean or get a promotion.
He suggests that the best work, the truly Lindy work, is done by people with day jobs.
Yes, this is some of the most counterintuitive career advice you'll ever hear. Don't try to make your passion your paycheck, at least not right away. The source lists the greats. Spinoza was a lens maker.
He literally ground glass for a living to pay his bills.
Einstein was a patent clerk. Kafka worked in insurance. The source himself was a full-time trader while writing his most important philosophical works.
So why does the day job matter so much?
Because it gives you what he calls FU money, in a sense. It gives you freedom. If you rely on your philosophy or your art to pay your rent, you will inevitably start compromising your philosophy or your art to sell books or please the tenure committee.
But if you grind lenses all day?
Then you are completely free to write whatever you believe to be true at night. You are doing the intellectual work out of love, out of passion, out of necessity. You have soul in the game. You aren't doing it for the immediate reward or the praise. You're doing it because you believe it needs to be said.
And you stop caring about getting into the New York Club 21, as the source puts it.
You stop trying to impress your contemporaries. You stop trying to win the argument at the cocktail party. You realize that the only judge whose opinion matters is time.
A free person does not need to win arguments, just win.
That's it. Survival is the only win condition.
So here is our provocative closing thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Go look at your bookshelf, look at your Kindle library, look at the podcast in your feed, Prison Company excluded, of course.
Look at the news you consume, the diet advice you follow.
And ask yourself, are you consuming fast food information? Stuff that is hype today, backed by a flimsy study of 12 college students, but will be rotting in the intellectual landfill in 5 years.
Or are you consuming Lindy information, ideas that have stood the test of centuries? Are you listening to the grandmother or the latest expert?
Because time is ruthless. It is a shredder. It will eventually delete everything that is fragile. The only question is, are you building your life, your mind, and your worldview on things that will break or things that will last?
That is the
A
question.
lot to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.